Jimmy, today is 4-Barrel Friday at Accufab. I want to show you some of our 4-barrel throttle bodies. Some of them are street strip, some of them are drag race or race car only. And I wanted to kind of show you the difference in the different sizes and so on. The first one that Accufab came out of, and by the way, these are not fully assembled yet, so you can see where the blades and shafts go. This is a 4150. That's what it's designed for. And basically the name comes from the fact that this bolt pattern is a 4150 bolt pattern and is kind of like an industry standard. It's at one point was as big a throttle body as you could get. You probably don't remember, but in the 1950s, the higher performance cars had something called a power pack, in which the factories replaced the 2-barrel throttle body, the standard 2-barrel throttle body, with a 4-barrel. And they were this size. 4-barrel on the 55 Chevy was a big deal. 4-barrel throttle body and dual exhaust, that was kind of a big deal. And we made this a long time ago, and we still make it today. It's very popular. It flows 1215 CFM. Good time to stop and explain that CFM stands for cubic feet per minute of airflow. And that's kind of an industry standard as far as how the airflow is measured in carburetors and also in throttle bodies too. One of the big differences between any carburetor and any throttle body is the carburetors also pull the gasoline in. They rely on air going through these holes and actually pulling the gasoline in. And so you require a certain amount of velocity to get the gasoline in. With fuel injection, the gasoline comes in separately through separate fuel injectors and is not pulled in based on the velocity of the air. So what that allows you to do is to put in a much larger throttle body than you could if you had that same engine with a carburetor and still get low and mid-range engine response. If you put too large of carburetors on an engine, the low end is a little spongy and the mid-range is not there. It only works good on the top end. None of that exists with throttle bodies. The air and fuel relationship is handled by the computer. It's always neat. Okay, 4150. This is still probably our most popular 4-barrel. Street, strip. Again, 1215 CFM, that's bigger than a Dominator carburetor, which is about 1,000 to 1,200 CFM. Speaking about the 4500, this is a typical 4500 throttle body. Larger bores, larger opening, and the bolt pattern, of course, is industry standard for 41 or Dominator size. This flows over 2,000 CFM, which is about double what a Dominator carburetor can flow. 2,128 CFM, if I remember exactly, and most Dominator carburetors are about 1,050, so it's almost double. These are good for street or strip, really kind of doesn't matter. But what we did is we came out with race-only style throttle bodies that flow a lot more air. Sometimes you can use them alone, sometimes you can use them in conjunction with another one, as in dual throttle bodies, etc. And the first one we came out with was this, called the 8500. The 8500, this bolt pattern is bigger than a Dominator, so it requires a custom intake or some kind of an adapter. And the 8500 flows almost 3,600 CFM. It's got 2¼ inch blades, and it flows a ton of air. People like Billy Glidden, for instance, on his Pro Mod, Nitrous Pro Mod, they run 2 of these. And even that is a little bit small these days, and we eventually came out with something even bigger, and that's the 9500. This is the largest throttle body we make. This is the largest throttle body that anybody makes, and it flows 5,476 CFM. We actually have customers with big inch motors, 900 plus cubic inch engines in Pro Mod, running 2 of these. Each blade is 90 millimeters, so it's like running 8 90-millimeter throttle bodies when you run 2 of them, or 4 alone. These are designed for race only, but actually, in theory, you could drive them on the street. especially the 8500, because like carburetors, they have progressive linkage, which means that if you don't press very far on the gas pedal, only the front two open. And then it gets about 20%, and then the back one's open too. It's all mechanical. But the throttle bodies I want to mention today are our 6500 series, somewhere between the 8500 and the 9500. And here are two of them right here. These are both 6500s. This 6500 was designed to be the same height as a carburetor, as a Dominator carburetor. And the reason for that is because there are a lot of drag cars, particularly these back motor dragsters that you see running in Sportsman Eliminators. And they've got these very expensive scoops that kind of go over the roll bar of the dragster and pick up air, and they're very expensive. So Pat Musey, who originally wanted this for some of the engines that he builds, wanted the throttle bodies to be the same height so they didn't have to change anything on these expensive not hood scoops, but carburetor scoops. And then we came out with the 3-inch version, which is, these are all exactly the same height, kind of like our standard. They're 3 inches tall. They both flow exactly the same, which is 2,656 CFM. Way more than two Dominator carburetors. So you don't have the weight. It's much lighter. But you can also run them together. And of course, this, what's called this air cleaner base, just like on the 4500, is the same as a 4500. The bolt pattern is the same as a 4500. So these two will actually fit on any Dominator intake manifold, whether it's custom sheet metal or even some of the cast aluminum ones. It'll fit on there. Not necessarily recommended for street use, but these are great race things, and they're our most popular. On the Dominator side, you can see how the front part of the blade opens, and then the entire one opens as soon as you press down. Of course, in a drag car, it's to the floor anyway, so they're all open automatically as soon as you jump on the gas. But this is really a handy feature because you can drive it back to the pits if you want. You can drive up to the starting line lane if you want. So it's very convenient and very drivable. They all work straight with electronics. And yet we have some customers using these with mechanical fuel injection too. So this kind of rounds out Accufab's line of 4-barrel throttle bodies, starting with the 4150. And just look at the difference between the 4150 and the 9500. 1,215 CFM, 5,476 CFM. But still work exactly the same. Everything we make has progressive linkage. Everything we make comes with all of the linkage, so on. Uses standard throttle position sensors. These two use IACs, idle air controls, because they're more for street use. I don't know what else I can tell you. That's it from Accufab today.